There used to be radio wars between my next guest and I. It was like, man, you know what I mean? It was Nashville against Indy. It was Chad against Dan. Chad Withrow joins us, Outkick 360, one of the great radio hosts in the country. Chad, you guys are always way too kind. I felt you were 1A, I was 1B. Didn't matter what Barnett or Barrett said. We were just that kind of good. That's how I look at it.
You really can't mess with excellence, right, Dan? And I feel like we both have really captured our own brand of excellence. And being 1 and 2 every year, and I would love to say that we were trading off in some way, but we really weren't trading off. I think we were number one time. And then the other 5 or 6 years, you were number 1. So we just had that one fleeting bit of glory to be in the top spot and have replaced you there. But every other year, it was you. And we always sat back and said, this is amazing because Dan is one guy. He is one guy hosting a show, and here we are 3 guys, and we can't match Dan's excellence, which all frustrated us.
Yeah, well, it shows you the power of getting suspended often.
Yeah, that's true. I really need a suspension to up my street cred, apparently. But look, we go to Outkick because we're trying to escape the specter of Dan Dakich, and then here you come to Outkick after us and continue to. We just live in your shadow at all times, Dan. It's really amazing.
No. I'm living in your shadow. Outkick 360 for those of you that are looking for, I think, the best show that you're going to find. Afternoons 3 to 7, 3 to 7 our time Eastern, right? 2 to 6 you. 2 to 5
Central, 3 to 6 your time.
Yeah. So those of you looking, I'm telling you, really good. I heard you guys. I live in Indy, obviously do a radio show in Indy, and I heard you guys. I was listening when Derrick Henry broke his foot, and you guys were complaining about the carpet here in Lucas Oil. What?
It's an issue, right? There's the multiple NFL coaches have talked about it. I'm actually watching that game with my wife, Dan. And she says, why does the field look that way when looking down at the field? And I said, that's just the way it looks. It's hard to explain. Now, there in Indy, too, they've got the weird shadow game that goes on with the roof at times. So it's kind of an odd-looking playing surface to begin with. But there have been some issues with the turf there. Now, was it the turf or was it the wear and tear on Henry's foot with all the carries? Probably more the wear and tear, but at least let us have our fantasy that the turf had something to do with it.
I'll let you have whatever you want as a Colts fan. Look, and a former coach, I hate to say it, but I'm just glad he's out. Although it doesn't matter. Let me go into this. I've said whenever somebody discusses the NFL and the best teams, particularly in the AFC, I never see anybody jump up and say the Titans. And I understand Henry's out. They've won 2 games without him. When you look at this run, Chad, if you're going by who's playing the best, the most consistent, how does anybody not talk about the Titans? I don't get it.
Well, if you and we're both college basketball guys, Dan, at heart. I love the sport also. But you go in college basketball and you go with that blind resume before the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
And you're looking at different teams. If you did a blind resume of the Titans versus every other team in the NFL and you showed beat 5 playoff teams from last year, 6 wins in a row, and then put some of the wins that they've had, key wins, the Titans win that resume test. They've got the best resume in the NFL right now. But the Cardinals are right there also, but with Kyler Murray out, that's a little bit of a different story. So, yeah, I think from what the Titans have done, you have to consider them one of the best teams in the NFL. Now, the lack of Derrick Henry and then the lack of offense that's followed that gives me some pause to make them even the best team in the AFC, but they continue to find ways to win. It was 2 big interceptions in LA to beat the Rams that completely turned that game around. It was sort of piecemealing an offensive game together and getting some good fortune from the officiating, honestly, against the Saints that helped them win that game. They've got to figure some things out offensively. I also think the national narrative around the Titans is simply that it's a mid-market team. They're not particularly sexy without Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was the star. Now that Derrick Henry's not there, it's not a team that national people want to spend a lot of time talking about. We are all creatures of habit, and we are all at times slaves of our own opinion. So if you come into a season with an opinion that I want to talk about these teams that move the needle nationally, I don't want to talk about the Tennessee Titans of the world. I think at times national media members skew their opinion that way, even as evidence is put in front of them that shows that they may have been wrong in the preseason, or they may be wrong about a certain team right now, because it's human nature. You want to go back to the teams that move the needle, and you want to spend more time talking about, are the Rams broken? Can they come back from this 2-game losing streak? Instead of saying, oh, guys, by the way, the Titans may be really good, and we may need to spend more time talking about the Titans. No one really wants to do that nationally.
I honestly, God, I've learned I go by who wins. I mean, particularly in the NFL and who you beat. I think a lot of people, Chad, expected the Titans to lose to the Saints. I really do. I think they did. I think they thought, Henry, 1 game, fine, 2 games, no chance. I really do.
I think you're right. I think I predicted, I was shocked when they beat the Rams without Derrick Henry. I thought that was going to be a blowout. And then they come back. I thought they would beat the Saints, but I knew it could be a struggle, and it definitely was a struggle. And you're right, Dan, about just go with the teams that win and talk about them. If you're going to lead off a show and talk about the NFL, let's talk about the teams that win. The Kansas City Chiefs weren't some national brand 4 or 5 years ago, right? They weren't a team that – they're not the Green Bay Packers. They're not the New England Patriots. They're not the Dallas Cowboys. But guess what happened? They got a great quarterback, and they have a team that started winning a ton. And now suddenly the Kansas City Chiefs are a national talking point. They are a national TV draw every time they play. And it's all because of the quarterback and because, most importantly, they win. They've been to 2 straight Super Bowls. They've won 1 of them. I don't see any reason why the Titans or any other franchise, the Colts, name the franchise. If you win enough and you have a great quarterback that also moves the needle in the NFL, if you have both those things, why not be a national team? Why not be a national story? Why not move the needle?
I totally agree with you. It's like, man, we keep talking about certain teams. Hey, let me make a comparison. You mentioned national media this summer when Julio Jones came to the Titans. It was over for everybody. Julio Jones hasn't done much. He's on the IR now. Indiana did the same thing in Indianapolis a few years ago with Andre Johnson coming over from Houston. Is this a function? Is Julio Jones' lack of a season a function of an injury? Is he shot? Is it both? I mean, what is it?
Well, the knock on Julio Jones, and I talked to a number of people in Atlanta when the Titans made the move, was, and I thought at the time of like, okay, this is just sour grapes because he doesn't want to be in Atlanta. But they said, look, the guy's not going to practice. If you're okay with him sitting out every week of practice and just showing up for games and showing up for, maybe half to 2/3 of the games, then you're going to be okay with Julio Jones, because the bottom line is he's been battling injuries the last couple of years. It's a hamstring now that's keeping him out. And there's been moments on the practice field where you could see something happen and he gets frustrated and he walks to the side of the trainer, and you know that he's probably going to be out that week. So it's been a big disappointment, Dan, in Nashville, because this was supposed to be the power pack of wide receivers the Titans have never had, with both A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And now it's A.J. Brown left to really carry the load because Julio Jones physically just can't go at this point.
When you look at Ryan Tannehill, I said this to Kaharski last week. I'm like, hey, I don't know. I kind of think he's in the top 5 at least for the MVP vote. I think he will be in the top 5. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I do know this. Titans won last week with Julio Jones out, Derrick Henry out, A.J. Brown getting 1 catch, and a running back as old as me and Adrian Peterson running the football. I mean, I'm not saying that he's the greatest, but there got to be something to Ryan Tannehill that makes his team believe in him. Seems like a winner to me. Where am I at? Where am I wrong here with Tannehill, other than the numbers?
Well, you're going to become a hero to Titans fans with that take, Dan, that he should be top 5 MVP. I'm a little bit on the opposite side of it. Look, Tannehill, you're right about this. The team loves him. I mean, he is a leader. He's not a guy who's going to ole on a tackle attempt like Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
He's a guy that in Oakland a couple years ago, he laid out a guy on an interception return, and you win respect from your teammates when you're the quarterback doing something like that. He's a gritty guy. His teammates like him. Tannehill's got to be better, though. He's thrown some picks this year that are rookie-level interceptions. That's very much unlike him since he's kind of rejuvenated his career with the Titans. So I think ultimately it needs to be better. If you're looking for an MVP candidate on the Titans, to me, it's Jeffrey Simmons in the middle of that defense. I mean, he's supplanted Aaron Donald, at least this year, as the most disruptive force in the middle of the defense. That was his star turn on Sunday Night Football, outplaying Aaron Donald and completely blowing up anything that the Rams wanted to do. So if I'm looking for an MVP candidate with the Titans right now, it's Jeffrey Simmons in the middle of that defense and Harold Landry with the pass rush. You know, I call him contract year Harold Landry because we've not seen this before. Now that he's in a contract year, he's terrific.
Man, there's a lot of that going around in every professional sport, brother.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right, I have for you 5 hot takes, and I want to see where you're at with each of these hot takes, all right? And I want to expound a little bit, if you don't mind, on them. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I don't know which way we go here, from 5 down or from 1 up. So I'm going to go from 5 down. Number 5, Chad, Kyler Murray and quarterbacks his size are the future of the NFL, his size and speed and quickness.
I'm going to say absolutely not. And I say that for this reason. I think, Dan, we're going to see more of Kyler Murray coming into the league. This is now an acceptable thing, whereas in 1990, it was ridiculous. Remember when Doug Flutie came out and he had to go to Canada to play because he was too small to play the position? You didn't even have a shot if you weren't, 6'2" or 6'3" or above. I think now that people see that you can get creative enough with great athletes, regardless of height, and be really successful in the NFL. But it's not going to become the norm because Mac Jones is the best rookie quarterback this year. You know, Justin Herbert is a guy who's 6'6" and can also run. So for every Kyler Murray, I look at that situation and say, well, he's doing really well, but yet here's this guy from Alabama who's your prototypical old school pocket passing quarterback who's the best rookie quarterback in the NFL right now with the New England Patriots. So I think we're going to see more of it. I don't think it's going to become the norm.
See, I agree with you. I saw Bryce Young, and I thought, okay, he's going to be like Kyler Murray. But you're right. Lamar Jackson, big, strong dude that can run it. You know, even your guy, Tannehill, I mean, and our guy, Wentz, I mean, these are big, strong dudes. I mean, these are not little guys, and they can all move a little bit. So I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right there. No, I think
and Dan, it's, you know, you were a basketball coach for a long time. You know, you always an old football coach friend of mine said this: when you're picking a team, always take the big guy with talent over the little guy with talent, right? Yeah. So I mean, there's always going to be, there's going to be someone 6'3" or 6'4" that can move also, and can pass. Kyler Murray is the exception, not the rule. I think we're going to have more exceptions with shorter guys that do it. But for every Kyler Murray, there's always going to be someone who's also tall and can move around and do things like a Ryan Tannehill, for instance.
You know, to your point about back in the 90s, we had you're a college basketball fan. You remember the name Dane Fife?
Absolutely. Yes. Love Dane Fife.
Yeah. Dane was the last kid I recruited in Indiana before I left and went to Bowling Green. And Coach Knight and I lied to him. He was a quarterback and a really good one. And we're like, hey, man, you're too small to be an NFL quarterback. Now, the dude was like 6'5", 220, in high school. And we're just lying to him. But now he'd be, he would have been big enough then, but we wanted to get him to come to Indiana.
That's what made you a great recruiter. Now, was that Dugan's little brother? Dane was Dugan's little brother. Okay, I remember Dugan Fife for Michigan also. Dugan was
I don't think he played with the Fab Five. I think he did. I think Dugan played with him for a year. All right, next thing. Jon Gruden has a really good shot or no shot to win his case versus the NFL.
I think Jon Gruden has a great shot to get paid in this deal. I don't see this thing going to court. I don't see it going to discovery, but I think Jon Gruden is going to get a check cut courtesy of the NFL because of this. Because really, when you look at it, there's no way to argue that someone with the league or someone out there was after Jon Gruden. They wanted his job. This was an investigation into the Washington football team. And the only thing that anyone has been transparent about and leaked to the media is the fact that Jon Gruden had some rough emails years ago. Someone had it out for Jon Gruden. I don't know who it was. We can speculate that these emails that were leaked were about the commissioner. So maybe the commissioner had something to do with having someone leak it to the media in order to get him fired by the Raiders. So I think ultimately the last thing the league wants is for this to go into some discovery phase where everything in these emails are going to be public record. And I think that they're going to pay Jon Gruden a settlement and be done with it. So, yeah, I don't – that's not necessarily winning because it's not going to go to court. So I don't think he's going to win this lawsuit. But I do think he's going to get a settlement check.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting his job back either.
No, not in the NFL.
Yeah,
not in the NFL. Now, let me ask you this, though. This is something we've talked about, Dan. If you're a college program out there and you want to make a splash, I mean, UConn just hired Jim Mora just because he's a name. If you wanted to make a splash for your program, how long do you wait to hire Jon Gruden? Or is that even possible?
Recruiting is such a big deal. Do you think Jon Gruden, based on, like, I've also said, look, I've not seen one. Have you seen one of these emails, like physically seen an email? All we've heard is what they say, right?
Yep.
If your recruiting is a lifeblood, can Jon Gruden go into a kid's home, an African-American kid's home, and sell himself?
I think that you have to surround yourself with the right people. I think it's possible if Jon Gruden hired the right staff, and part of that is convincing the right staff to work with you also, which is a part of the recruiting angle that you mentioned,
right.
Dan. So
Yes.
if he can get the right staff and minorities on staff that believe in Jon Gruden, that believe his defense of these emails that he's laid out there, and they can go properly sell it to kids in high school, yeah, I think Jon Gruden would be a draw with a Super Bowl ring that he can bring in and show recruits. And I think it would work at the right place. I don't think a top program is going to do it right now. But if you are a lower Power 5 job that's open and Jon Gruden really wanted to coach again, I think it's worth a look.
If I were, I told Calvin Sampson this when he was thinking about resigning. And I said, you can't resign because once you resign, you don't have a voice anymore. And if Jon Gruden wants to ever clear himself or clean himself, whatever the right word you want. I don't think he can clear himself, but clean himself, then he's got to get back into it at some point because I don't think any network's going to hire him. I just don't know that. I think he would be a huge splash. I think people would pay attention, but I think sometimes that's good, and I think that could also be very, very bad. I don't see it happening for a year, but I think it's interesting. Stranger things have happened. Hell, well, I don't know, but it's hard to go through the list of what's worse, boom, 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 with coaches. We got Dave Bliss at the all-time top, right? Dave Bliss with the murders and all that stuff. But I have a hard time.
But he coached again. I mean, not at a high level, but Dave Bliss got a job after covering up murder on his own team. I know. I mean, it's also, look, this is sort of where we are right now, and you and I know this, but the unforgivable sin right now is to say something offensive. And that's where Jon Gruden is in terms of being hireable. And I think that's the problem with him. It's not a criminal issue with him, but you could come back from a criminal issue quicker than what he's going through right now. So that's going to be an uphill climb.
You're absolutely right. All right. Odell Beckham Jr. will be a major kind of Pro Bowl-ish performer for the Rams.
No, I don't see him being a major Pro Bowl type performer. I think he could be a nice compliment to what they're doing. Look, Robert Woods going down for the Rams is a big deal. And someone's going to have to step into that void because that guy does a lot. And Odell Beckham Jr. has the ability to do a lot of the things that Robert Woods does. He was involved in the run game. They'd find ways to get it to him on end arounds. He would be a running back at times. I think Odell Beckham Jr. can do some of that. You know, he's done some direct snap stuff throughout his career also. They need him to try to fill that role right now until Woods can come back. I think he can be a nice piece to what the Rams obviously hope is a Super Bowl puzzle. I don't see him being an all-pro type performer again, but I think he can be a nice complement to Cooper Kupp and what the Rams want to do offensively with Matthew Stafford and can help get them to a Super Bowl.
You know, to your point, I was listening to Rex Ryan, and whether you like Rex Ryan or not, he's the one guy I think on that panel that's insightful. And he said something interesting about Robert Woods. He said Robert Woods will not only block cornerbacks and safeties, but he'll take on a defensive tackle. He's the kind of guy that people rally around in the locker room because they know about his toughness. So that's to your point. That dude is very valuable. I don't see Beckham Jr. doing that kind of stuff.
No, that's not his game at all. And you're right. I mean, look, it's also when I'm watching him on the sideline when they're getting their brains beat in by San Francisco on Monday night, and he's not laughing it up, but he's kind of just sitting there nonchalantly talking to a teammate. And I'm thinking, if you're a guy who joins a team like that is going for broke, they are all in. The Von Miller move, bringing him in, they want to win a Super Bowl right now. Matthew Stafford in the offseason, you better really work on getting along with that locker room, right? There better be a concerted effort to come in and show that you are about winning also. That's your only concern. Can he do that? I think that remains to be seen. And I'm not saying I thought he was dogging it or anything in that first game. I'm just seeing him interact with the players, and it made me think his interaction with his teammates and his level of commitment is going to be a big part of this story as to how they're going to get along with him and he's going to get along with the Rams.
And I saw exactly what you saw. Exactly. I mean, exactly. And, yeah. All right, Tom Brady is starting to show his age, Chad.
I thought Tom Brady was starting to show his age. I guess it was 2 years ago now in his final year in New England. That entire season, Dan, he would get rid of the football so quickly. You see this a lot with older quarterbacks where they feel the phantom pressure at times. Tom Brady that year was skipping rocks a lot, where there wouldn't be a lot of pressure on him, but he would feel a shadow around him and would throw the ball away. He'd throw it at the feet of a running back or just get rid of it quickly. And I started thinking, man, finally, even Father Time caught up with the great Tom Brady. And then you realize, that was just New England's offense and not having anyone around him because he gets to Tampa and he's great again and he wins the Super Bowl. I was in New England when the Titans beat the Patriots in Brady's final game as a Patriot in the playoffs that year. And I'm thinking, Tom Brady seems old at this point. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the downside. You knew that he had something left if he went somewhere else, but you knew that night it was the end of him in New England. But I'm hesitant to say that he's showing his age because I've been burned way too many times by Tom Brady when he has a little dip in play to say that he's getting old. So I'm going to continue to go with my theory that Tom Brady's going to play till he's 50 and just leave it at that. He's going to look old at 49. That's going to be the first time he looks old.
I'm totally with you, and I don't understand why I don't have a $500 a month prescription or subscription, whatever the hell it is, to TB12, because I look like this.
Well,
he'll look. Every adult male should. That's over 30.
I mean, I don't have that level of discipline. I enjoy food too much. I enjoy drinking too much at times. There's no way that I could live my life actually pretending like I enjoy avocado ice cream. That's never going to be a thing for me. Never. I refuse.
I'm not a juicer. I can't be juicing. I can't be squeezing. No squeezing.
I'll die 10 years earlier if that's what it takes for me to enjoy my life. I'm not going to live to 100 like Tom Brady, but I'm going to enjoy every day of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, last one. Cam Newton will have a huge impact on Carolina.
We discussed this yesterday on Outkick 360. I am the minority opinion on our show with this. I think he is absolutely back. When he was screaming that he's back with those first two plays for touchdowns, I think Cam Newton, now with McCaffrey back, I think that this is huge for the Panthers. I really do think that he's going to make a big impact, even if it's just in this sort of, platoon system that we've seen from them. I think that he's going to have a big impact when he gets in games. I think they're going to have a package ready for him that's going to work. I think that's the one place that he could go and have an impact on a locker room, an impact on the city, an impact on the fan base. It's going back to Charlotte with the Panthers. So, yes, I think he's going to have a big impact on this Panthers team. I think at least for the time being, he is, in fact, back, just like he declared in that game on Sunday.
See, I do too. I've always been a Cam Newton fan. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I followed him, all the time. But Chad, the thing I loved about him, when he was, I don't even know, what was he, 22, 23? I don't know. And every national media person was hounding him because his dad wanted money for him to go to college after getting kicked out of Florida and all that. He handled that like unbelievable, led his team to an undefeated season, won a national championship. And I always think about, my own experience. Like if I was 18 to 20, I couldn't have handled it that well. No way. And I've always respected that about him. Whatever you think about him, you do, but I've always respected that. So I always root for him. You know what I'm saying? He's always been a guy that I'm like, man, people underestimate the crush that was on him when he was in college and how well he handled that. It's not normal. Let's put it that way.
Not normal at all. And he also goes back to what we discussed earlier. If you have the chance to take the big talented guy, you always take the big talented guy over the small talented guy. That's what jumped out to me when he was at Auburn and winning that 2010 national title and throughout his career. And I've seen this guy. They practiced with the Titans one year, and getting up close to that guy, he is a giant. I mean, you would think that he is a defensive tackle when you see him up close. So that always struck me about Cam Newton was how massive of a man he was playing that position and moving the way that he does. You're
the best, man. What we got going today? 3 to 5 Central or Eastern. What do we got?
We've got some good stuff. Yeah, we got some good stuff coming today. Trey Wallace is going to talk SEC with us with Outkick. Jeff Fisher, former Titans coach, former NFL head coach, is going to join us in studio 5 Eastern time, 4 Central for the entire hour. So we're going to talk a lot of ball, a lot of coaching with him. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it.
Great stuff, man. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks, Chad.
Anytime, Dan. Thanks for having me.